Yes, that's the upshot. This is the fallout from Nigel Farage's claim initially that he'd lost his bank account with Coutts on political grounds. A story broken by the BBC's business editor Simon Jack that he'd spoken to a senior source with knowledge of the situation that said that decision would be made purely on commercial grounds. Subsequently, Mr Farage released a document that he'd received from the bank, which was over 40 pages, set out all the reasons his views were not, in the bank's view, sympathetic or compatible with its views. This was a bank straying into political grounds to make a decision about whether some should hold a bank account. Highly controversial. Ministers have got involved. The question then was, where did Mr Jack get that story? A newspaper said he'd sat next to Alison Rose, the CEO of NatWest, which owns Coutts, at dinner the night before he broke the story. Question then was the chief executive of a bank that's 40% owned by the taxpayer sharing bank account information with a journalist? A very, very difficult position for them to be in. Well, she has acknowledged today that she was the source for that story. She says she made a serious error of judgment. I recognise that in my conversation with Simon Jack of the BBC, I made a serious error of judgment in discussing Mr Farage's relationship with the bank. I think we have a little bit more of the statement. Believing it was public knowledge, I confirm Mr Farage was a Coutts customer and that he had been offered a NatWest bank account. Alongside this, I repeated what Mr Farage had already stated, that the bank saw this as a commercial decision. I would like to emphasise that in responding to Mr Jack's questions, I did not reveal any personal financial information about Mr Farage. In response to general question about eligibility criteria required to bank with Coutts and NatWest, I said that guidance on both was publicly available on their websites. In doing so, I recognise that I left Mr Jack with the impression that the decision to close Mr Farage's accounts was solely a commercial one. And that, for now, that position that she answered questions on information in the public domain is one that the board has accepted. The chairman of NatWest, Howard Davies, has said the board has noted Alison Rose's statement. She recognised she shouldn't have spoken this way. This was a regrettable error of judgment. They hint that she'll perhaps lose some bonus money as a consequence. The events will be taken into account in decisions on remuneration at the appropriate time. Now, whether this position can hold is perhaps still moot. Ministers have been not happy. The Prime Minister has been tweeting about this issue. Tomorrow, banks are being called in to see the Secretary of the Treasury, Andrew Griffiths, on the question of how they deal with customers, whether they should ever take into account people's legally held political views. The government's position is they shouldn't. The state is a nearly 40% shareholder in NatWest. Should a minister, or indeed the Prime Minister, have doubts about Alison Rose's position, one wonders if this can hold. But for now, she is sticking to this position. She didn't reveal anything directly about Mr Farage's account. She also says she was not aware of the decision-making. This perhaps may be key. She was told that he was going to lose this Coutts account back in April, but she hadn't seen the dossier Mr Farage eventually put into the public domain. She didn't know that this whole host of other issues, his comments on Brexit primarily, but a whole host of other issues, particularly around the culture war that had caused disquiet within Coutts, she didn't know. That, for now, is the reason she's able to hang on to her job, but she does so damaged by this episode, and we wait to see if this position lasts.